You are on Tips and Streams with your host, Coca.
What's good, everyone? Welcome back to Tips and Streams. I'm Koken, and I hope you're doing well and feeling locked in wherever you're listening from. All right, let's get to the daily picks. I've got 4 NBA matchups on the card today, so buckle up. We're diving straight into the action. The first prediction for today's NBA games is for the game between the Orlando Magic and the Chicago Bulls. I'm looking at this matchup like a classic styles clash at the United Center. Chicago wants to turn the game into a track meet, and Orlando would rather make every possession feel like work. The market is leaning Orlando by a few points, but the more I dig into how these teams are trending and how the matchup is shaped tonight, the more I see value on the home dog. Orlando comes in with the better overall profile, and I'm not ignoring that. They've been living in tight games lately, and they just squeaked by Indiana 112-110 with Paolo Banchero doing Paolo things as the late clock problem solver. Even in a 1-point loss to Toronto, he still brought the physicality on the glass, with Franz Wagner and Moritz Wagner sidelined, and Jonathan Isaac listed as questionable. The Magic offense can get pretty simple. Banchero and Desmond Bane create, and everyone else has to survive the minutes in between. That's not always a problem, but it does make Orlando easier to scheme against, especially if the pace slows and the possessions get longer. Chicago, meanwhile, is the kind of team that can look messy one night and then hang 130 for the next. That's the Bulls' experience. What matters to me here is the identity. This group plays fast, shares it, and creates volume through ball movement. They've been one of the league's better passing teams, and at home, they're comfortable letting the game speed up. Even with Josh Giddey and Kobe White out, Chicago can still manufacture offense by pushing the tempo, attacking early, and getting into actions that create catch-and-shoot looks and quick reads. And if Orlando tries to turn this into a slower, half-court grind, that actually helps the Bulls cover a number like this because it compresses the game and puts more weight on execution in a few key stretches. From a betting perspective, I also can't ignore the pattern. Orlando has been hard to trust laying points lately, repeatedly failing to cover in recent spots, and they've been shaky as a road favorite. Chicago has been the opposite in this role, showing real bite as a home underdog and regularly showing up on the number even when the roster isn't perfect. That's exactly the profile I want when I'm grabbing points. Matchup-wise, there's also a path for Chicago's perimeter to stay productive. The Bulls can generate 3-point volume, and this game environment should create extra possessions with both teams capable of playing quicker stretches. Orlando's defense can be legit, but they also give opponents reasons to believe they can get to the line and keep scoring even when shots don't fall. If Chicago can keep the ball moving, avoid empty trips, and get something from the wings in space, they don't need to win the math all night to hang around. My final read is simple. Orlando might still be the cleaner team on paper, but the spread is asking them to separate on the road while they're missing key pieces and while their recent covers have been shaky. I'm not buying that at this price. My prediction is this. I'm taking the Chicago Bulls to cover the 6-point spread against the Orlando Magic in Chicago. I think they can hang around late, and I wouldn't be shocked if the United Center energy turns this into a real fourth-quarter coin flip. Today's second prediction is for the game between the Atlanta Hawks and the New York Knicks. Madison Square Garden is usually where the Knicks turn games into a street fight, and I'm not ignoring how strong they've been in that building. A 15-2 home record tells you everything about their comfort level, their energy, and how clean their execution gets when that crowd is pushing them. New York is also sitting at 23-10, and even in that tight loss to San Antonio, their offense still looked dangerous. But for me, this matchup comes down to one swing factor, Trae Young. If he's not out there, Atlanta doesn't automatically get worse. Sometimes it gets simpler. The ball moves quicker, the pace becomes more natural, and the Hawks can fall into that next man up flow where nobody is waiting for one guy to create everything. Gee, that's the version of Atlanta I actually trust to stay inside a big number, because the possessions don't get sticky and the effort level tends to rise on both ends. Now, New York's profile is real. They score a ton, they shoot the three at an elite clip, and they rebound like a team that expects to win every 50-50. Jalen Brunson has been on a heater, and when he's cooking, the Knicks can turn a close game into a quick separation. I also like how their wing defenders can make Atlanta work for catches and angles. That matters against a Hawks team that has been leaking points lately, especially over the last stretch, where their defense fell off hard. Still, I'm not in a hurry to lay a heavy price here because Atlanta's style can keep them attached. The Hawks play fast, they space the floor well, and they can score in bunches when the extra pass shows up. Their road form against the number has also been more reliable than what they've done at home, which is exactly the kind of split I look for when I'm grabbing points. And even though New York has had the edge in the recent head-to-head results, these matchups have often been closer than the narrative suggests. I'm also watching New York's availability. No Josh Hart and no Landry Shamet takes a little depth and edge away, and if Mitchell Robinson is limited, that's one more reason Atlanta can hang around with second-chance chances and early offense. My prediction and my money are on the Hawks to cover the 8.5-point spread, and I'm even stronger on it if Trae Young is not available. If Trae ends up playing, my advice is simple. Either back New York or stay away from the game entirely. The third prediction for today is for the game between the Sacramento Kings and Phoenix Suns. All right, let's talk Kings at Suns in Phoenix, because when I line up the form, the matchup edges, and the current situation, I just don't see a clean lane for Sacramento to hang around for 48 minutes. The biggest issue for the Kings is simple. They can't get stops, and they've been leaking points at a brutal rate. When you're giving up over 120 a night, and opponents are basically living at the rim and cashing jumpers at a high clip, every game turns into a track meet you can't actually win. And it's not just the defense. The Kings have also been one of the weakest closing teams in the league. When your fourth quarter win rate is at the bottom, that tells me you're getting out-executed when the game tightens up and you're not making the extra plays that flip a spread. Now layer in the roster reality. With Domantas Sabonis out, Sacramento loses the hub that makes their offense breathe. The screens, the handoffs, the paint touches that force rotations. Without that steady interior engine, they become a perimeter-heavy team that needs threes to fall just to stay afloat. And even if I've said before that the Kings can look more organized without Zach LaVine, the bigger picture doesn't change tonight. This is a rough defensive team walking into a building where Phoenix can dictate the tempo and turn mistakes into quick points. On the Suns side, I like what the profile says. They score in the mid-1 teens per game, but what stands out to me is how they win possessions. Phoenix is elite at forcing turnovers, and they generate a ton of steals. That matters against a Kings group that already gets sloppy because Phoenix doesn't just force the giveaway, they convert it into momentum buckets. And at home lately, they've been holding opponents down around the 100-point neighborhood more often than not, which is exactly the kind of defensive backbone you want when you're laying a big number. The recent trend lines also push me toward Phoenix. Sacramento has been getting punched in the mouth. We're talking blowout losses where the game is basically decided early, and then it's damage control. Meanwhile, Phoenix is coming off a solid stretch, including strong road wins before getting clipped by Cleveland. I actually don't hate that kind of loss for a home favorite next game. It usually sharpens the focus. You're not floating, you're not satisfied. You're coming back to your own floor looking to re-establish control from the opening tip. And let's not ignore the betting context from the data you gave me. Phoenix has been one of the best teams at covering numbers this season, while Sacramento has been one of the worst. Combine that with Sacramento's ugly defensive metrics and late-game problems, and I'm comfortable projecting a game script where the Suns separate in the middle quarters, then finish it with steadier execution. Here, I'm picking the Suns to cover the 11-point line at home. I expect Phoenix to win this with authority, something like a double-digit win in the 12 to 16 range if they take care of the ball and keep turning Sacramento's mistakes into points. Today's last prediction is for the game between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Los Angeles Lakers. Listen, I've been prowling the sidelines and breaking down film for over 30 years, and if there is one thing I've learned, it's that the betting lines often respect a team's name more than its current reality. This Friday night at Crypto.com Arena, we have a classic case of the brand tax. The Los Angeles Lakers are laying 5 points, and frankly, my veteran eyes see a lot of holes in that logic. Let's look at the Lakers first. On paper, having a duo like LeBron James and Luka Doncic sounds like a cheat code, and Luka is playing at an MVP level, leading the league in scoring. But basketball isn't played on paper, it's played in the rotation. Right now, the Lakers are running on fumes. They've dropped 4 of their last 5, and the reason is clear as day. They have zero depth. When you subtract glue guys like Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura from the equation, you lose the connective tissue that makes a championship contender click. Without those secondary creators and floor spacers, the Lakers have looked stagnant, even suffering a double-digit blowout at home against a struggling Pistons squad. They are the top-ranked team in the league at winning the fourth quarter, but you can't win the final frame if you've already dug yourself a 20-point hole. On the other side of the hardwood, we have the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, they aren't exactly the picture of health either, with a laundry list of guys like Zach Edey and Brandon Clark in street clothes. However, the Grizzlies have that dog in them. They are a scrappy unit that thrives in the mud. Ja Morant is back to his old self, coming off a 40-point masterpiece where he was getting to the rack at will. When you pair his downhill pressure with Jaren Jackson Jr.'s elite rim protection, JJJ is currently on a tear with his shot blocking. You have a team that is extremely difficult to blow out. Memphis plays at the fastest pace in the league, and they love to turn defensive rebounds into transition buckets. The Lakers' defense has been a sieve lately, ranking near the bottom of the league in defensive rating. They are allowing opponents to shoot the lights out from deep, and Memphis has enough shooters like Santi Aldama to capitalize on those late closeouts. While the Lakers might have the star power to win this game straight up, asking them to cover a 5-point spread while they are this shorthanded is a tall order. The trends don't lie. Los Angeles has failed to cover in 7 of their last 10. Meanwhile, the Grizzlies have a knack for keeping things tight against Pacific Division opponents. Memphis is catching the Lakers at the perfect time, in the middle of a depth crisis and a defensive slump. My prediction is that the Memphis Grizzlies will keep this game within the margins and cover the 5-point spread in Los Angeles. I expect Ja Morant to keep the pressure on the Lakers' backcourt for 48 minutes, making it a one-possession game down the stretch. Give me the points and the scrappy road dogs.